All right. It's a brave new world, and welcome in, we hope, to a live, we hope, cross your fingers, Between the Hashmarks podcast. As always, I'm joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, the purveyor of the Two Deep Zone, now on Ghost, Mike Tanier, and I'm Matt Lombardo, purveyor, owner, founder, reporter at BetweenTheHashmarks.com on Beehive. Michael, what's up, my friend?
You're on Beehive. I'm on Ghost. I think I'm on IMAX too. Looking at the screen. Anyone who's watching this, we're in two very different aspect ratios right now. A little bit of a visual representation of the schism that happened as we tried to move off of our last platform.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to take a big collective sigh of relief for both of us here, at least half a sigh, because I did see Naranj on the go check in the comments section, and he said all good with the video. So I guess we're live. This should eventually wind up on my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. Should eventually land in the Between the Hashmarks podcast feed on Apple Podcasts. It should eventually land as an article post and an email from Between the Hashmarks, and hopefully as an article post and email from the Two Deep Zone on Ghost.
Yeah, anything's possible with that last one. I'm going to give it a try because I have to figure out how it works. Thank you for chiming in and letting us know what's going on here. Because at the very least, during these May ones, we have to shake out the tech element of things so that when September comes and this is full, everything's working fine.
Yeah, and we apologize for the absence over the last several weeks, but Mike, we should touch on this right out of the chute. It was a very long, belabored, very thoughtful move for both of us, moving away from our former platform. For me, it came down to value in terms of just the sizable fees that got taken out of each transaction, both on your and my end, as well as for people paying to subscribe, read, and support our work. And the values of not sharing a platform with some of the content that was promoted. I'm thrilled to be at Beehive. I know you're happy to be at Ghost, but just want to say thanks to everyone who followed us to our new homes. We appreciate the support, and hopefully all of the bugs and all of the kinks that we're trying to work out, hopefully those get worked out soon if they haven't already.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for your support during the stages for both of us of this journey, this migration, which is the term they use, the migration. The bottom line is a lot of people didn't feel comfortable at Substack.
Right.
Didn't feel comfortable even supporting us financially, coming, visiting, sharing, something as simple as sharing something. There are folks who, because of the amount of extremist, let's call them for what they are, Nazi, fascist, that kind of commenter, blogger, etc., writer at Substack that gets platformed there and promoted there. A lot of people weren't comfortable with that. In our profession, people have to feel comfortable. We're a small business. People have to want to come in the door. And if people can't, we have to make the move. We did make the move. And you pointed out there was a financial element too. Starting to see that now.
Yeah.
Starting to see that now. Like some of these options are much cheaper. Return on investment for the small business owner.
Of course, and to celebrate the move, Mike and I, we've last year during Pride Month, we launched a special where if you subscribe to one of our newsletters, whether it's the Two Deep Zone or Between the Hashmarks, you'll get a 6-month free trial of the other. So it's basically a test drive from now through the NFL trade deadline. You know, check out both websites, both newsletters. If you love the one you got the free trial for, hey, sign up at that point and become a subscriber and support us both at that point. And in addition to that, we are donating 20% of the proceeds to the Trevor Project in an effort to make a tangible assistance, help, impact on our LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters in what could be the darkest moments of their lives by supporting the Trevor Project that do God's work for that community. So if you sign up for the Two Deep Zone or Between the Hashmarks, you get 6 months free of the other. 20% of the proceeds going to the Trevor Project. We did it last June for Pride. We're doing it now as our Unstacked special, kind of kicking off Pride Month a bit early.
Right, and then in Pride Month, we're just going to call it our Pride Special. It's the same special. So don't wait, because you're still donating to the Trevor Project. Don't wait so you're doing it during Pride Month. Or you can wait, because then if it's a 6-month trial, you're like, oh, that gets me closer into December. That might get me further into the playoff chase. You can wait, but don't wait for the wrong reason. Please help us. Please.
Exactly. And speaking of help, I know that you spent the weekend helping your son.
Yes.
Congratulations to CJ graduating as a graduate, graduate level courses at the University of Rutgers. I heard and I saw some skeets come across the social media platform that you helped him move out of not of a ground floor, not a first floor, but a second story apartment over the weekend. Speaking of helping, speaking of moving, speaking of migrating, how are you feeling today, sir? Physically, are you in one piece? Is the back okay? Are you avoiding the painkillers? How did you survive? How you doing?
It wasn't just a second floor apartment. It was sort of a promotional space for the movie Backrooms, which is coming right now. If you see ads for this, it's people who have to like go down very, very narrow corridors. It's a horror film, and I think the sequel to that movie will be people in a very narrow, very steep staircase moving couches. But I don't. No stolen valor here. My two sons, now my large adult sons, did most of the heavy lifting. I still had to go down up and down those steps with a lot of dining room chairs and a television and things like that. So I was feeling great until we spoke earlier. And you jinxed me. So, well, how are you feeling? I said, well, yeah, Friday night, a couple of whiskeys, a little bit of, other intoxicants, and then Saturday morning, a nice brisk walk on the stairwell master at the gym, and I felt better. Now it's very twingy. So if you say something that gets me upset, I might like double over in pain, and just don't take it personally. But it's just not that. It might be the big one. It might be the big sciatica seizure coming on in my lower back.
Oh, let's hope you can get through the show. The sound check might have screwed you over there. Earlier the little jinx during our sound check to make sure that the technology was up and running the best that we could expect it to. But enough of the housekeeping, enough of the moves, enough of the migrations. Let's get into it. And we talked about this going into the podcast. We wanted to touch on some of the big moments of the offseason. That was the premise of yesterday's 4Downs column at betweenthehashmarks.com. I spoke to a handful of executives and coaches about the moves that they think will move the needle the most during the regular season. And it seems like you might have taken issue with some of their choices and some of mine based on the outline that came across my phone as I'm dropping my son off to daycare this morning.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing the Lord's work for actually writing about the NFL during Memorial Day weekend. Definitely the few, the proud there, to coin a phrase, that aren't out there just like talking about the wedding photos at the center's wedding or who didn't show up for OTAs and trying to write 2,000 words on it. You went and really talked about the NFL and the biggest moves of the offseason. That's great. Now I take a little bit of umbrage, first of all, in that we both know the biggest move. We're waiting for it. It's next week.
Yes, the biggest move will be the post June 1 trade to come of A.J. Brown to Team X. And I still believe, and I'm sure you do as well, we'll talk about it, I still believe the New England Patriots are the leader in that clubhouse.
Yes.
You've heard some whispers and some smatterings from connected and unconnected folks alike about the Jacksonville Jaguars kicking the tires on A.J. Brown. And boy, what a Brian Thomas for A.J. Brown swap would be for those two franchises.
Almighty. That better not be a straight-up swap.
You've heard the rumors and the whispers about Sean McVay and Les Snead reinventing their F them picks mode and going into trading draft picks to bring A.J. Brown to a receiving core. There already has Puka Nacua, already has Devontae Adams. You have Matthew Stafford there. But I do still think it's the Patriots. I do still think it is building around Drake May, trying to build out an offense that can overcome and erase the shortfalls that showed themselves in that Super Bowl loss to the Seahawks. I still think A.J. Brown will be a Patriot, and I still think that that's going to be the best fit for him.
Right, and I think that's the move that's going to happen. So, but you wrote about the moves that have happened. And I just say this because you're the one writing about the NFL right now. You're not just doing a bunch of jokes. You put a little bullseye on yourself. You put a little bullseye on yourself. You become a magnet for criticism. When no one else is saying anything and you're the one saying something, you're the magnet. Okay? So we'll start with the moves. And the first one is John Harbaugh getting hired by the Giants. And in my column, which is 32 Fan-Based Delusions, I proudly declared the Giants fan base to be the most delusional fan base in the NFL. And I think you're out there beating the drum a little bit for them because you are way on board with the 2026 Giants.
I am. Now, I will say, and I will admit that I've kind of moved back off that ledge slightly over the last week after Adam Schefter's report that they don't know how healthy Malik
Right.
Neighbors is. They
Right.
don't know what that knee is. My optimism about the New York Giants is built upon Malik Neighbors being back and healthy, Jackson Dart with some adults in the room, from offensive coordinator Matt Nagy to John Harbaugh's presence to bringing in Isaiah Likely to bringing in Arvell Reese, having him just fall into their lap in the draft. Nobody saw that coming. The talent they've brought in this offseason on both sides of the ball. And I spoke to a scouting director in the AFC who said, quote, nothing moves the needle like John Harbaugh in New York, unquote. I tend to agree there. I tend to agree that the amount of talent they've added high up in the first round over the last several draft classes, presuming that Jackson Dart makes progress and figures out how not to get decapitated on the run outside the pocket, that Harbaugh being there is going to lead to them taking a big leap in the NFC.
And I'm a fan of Harbaugh in terms of building the structure for the New York Giants, being the adult in the room that they lacked, I guess, since Coughlin left, whatever. But I am looking at what looks like a 2 or 3 year turnaround. You mentioned the neighbor situation, which I kind of saw coming down the pike. There was a lot of like really pessimistic conversation about how healthy he really was, and that was going on for weeks. I look at the wake of the Dexter Lawrence situation. You know who they have at defensive tackle right now? DJ Reader and Shelby Harris. And DJ Reader is not the guy he was 4 years ago, folks. These two are a combined, I think, 67 years of age right now. But that's okay because they got four outstanding edge rushers, and it'll be fine because Brian Burns will be on one side, Abdul Carter will be on the other side. I guess Thibodeau will be at cornerback because they don't have any cornerbacks except the rookie, and Downs is going to be the linebacker. There's too many holes. There's too many gaps, and there's too much projection. Even if you say Neighbors comes back week 2, week 3, he's fine. You're projecting Dart way up there into the stratosphere. Projecting the offensive line to take another big step forward with Cece Marigo.
Myoga. Yep.
Myoga. Cece okay, I said it once right. That's fine. We're done. Okay? Too many holes. Too many things like you should look at the kicker situation if you want to cry.
Yeah, I'm more confident about the field position flipping punter. I think the punter could make an impact there, in terms of pinning
Let's count
teams
it.
back. Yeah, Jordan Stout coming in and following Harbaugh from Baltimore, from the Ravens.
Right.
You beef up the talent along the front seven. You pin your ears back. You're starting off in better defensive field position. The pieces, it's like a puzzle, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and I can see the pieces starting to come together. I happen to think it's going to be more of a fast track because I'm not as bullish on the rest of that division.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see your side of the argument that it is so much of a projection of Dart that if Dart doesn't make the leap, then all of this becomes tertiary, secondary,
Right.
projections here. And I think it was someone on Blue Sky. I was chatting on, Blue Sky this morning. He thought that the Harbaugh move was a little bit overblown because it's a players' league. I tend to agree, but I think that when you look at a league where the talent level is, the differential is so minute from team to team, coaches can make all the difference. But to your point, it always, always, always all comes down to the quarterback, and Dart has to make that step.
Dart has to make that step. He might have to make it without Malik Neighbors again. Likely is another projection guy. Likely leads all of creation in almost touchdowns. He is the almost touchdown machine. And, was never the tight end one there. Mark Andrews was tight end one when he was healthy. And so now they're projecting him. So it's all of that. I would say Harbaugh is a big deal because we're not going from an ordinary coach to Harbaugh. We're going from Daboll.
Yeah.
And before Daboll to Judge, we're going from a bunch of substitute teachers to the real teacher. And I think that'll make a difference. But he's still doing cultural stuff, too. I was mildly surprised that Joe Sheen got a contract extension. That probably means he's been compartmentalized. Not so much that, he's a collaborator so much as he's a now useful assistant. But you saw all the stuff they were doing earlier in the offseason with getting rid of some of the guys in the back room there
Right.
at Rutherford and all. And I think all of those things are getting rid of Lawrence. Lawrence suddenly being like, hey, I need a trade. And it's like, it sounds like you want the paychecks more than you want the effort. I'm sorry, Dexter Lawrence. That's what it sounded like. I think there's a lot of that going on. And I think that's a problem Harbaugh's going to be working on throughout the season.
I still remember going back, kicking off the training camp tour last summer, and all of this unbridled optimism from everyone in that building about
Yeah,
how Jackson Dart's the guy and Russell Wilson's the guy, and we have Jameis Winston here. We have three really good quarterbacks, and
right,
Malik's going to take a leap, and Abdul Carter's a freak. I think we'll get a sense now that we kind of like got that out of the way that
yeah,
we knew that it was like youthful exuberance and,
right,
the opposite of Stockholm syndrome when you've been so bad for so long that you get a little bit of hope that you think
right.
it's going to be this big leap. I'll be interested to see what the vibe is in East Rutherford this summer and if there is meaningful progress in the preseason and the regular season about these pieces coming together and not just projecting out that these guys are going to take big steps. But another franchise that might just need to take a little step,
Uh-huh.
I thought made a big move to getting back into the conversation, and that's the Chiefs adding Kenneth Walker. And judging by the outline, yeah, you don't agree with that one.
Why are you like this about running backs? Why are you like you want the running back situation to be what it's not?
Yeah, my theory is a little bit different than the mainstream theory.
Right.
I understand that running backs don't matter until they do. And I've seen Kenneth Walker make the difference when running backs matter last year. I saw Saquon Barkley make the difference when running backs mattered, when he rushed for over 2,000 yards and was the driving force behind that Super Bowl run and that Super Bowl win. To a slightly lesser degree, I saw Derrick Henry bludgeon, bulldoze, and steamroll the Ravens to an AFC championship game. Running backs didn't matter there until it did. And I know that there's a graveyard of bad running back
Yeah,
contracts
yeah.
out there. But there are the aberrations where you have an elite running back joining an elite situation. And I just look at this Chiefs team with having an over reliance on Mahomes' magic and Mahomes working his way back from that torn ACL that he suffered in like week 15.
Right.
You now have not just a crutch, but a sledgehammer next to you in the backfield that can be a complementary force in Kenneth Walker. I just see big things. I see this transformation happening like we saw in Philadelphia, in Seattle, and in Baltimore, now in Kansas City.
You're now. By the way, you're catching strays on this, not so much for the Kenneth Walker take, but because you were banging the drum for like a Bijan extension a couple weeks ago too. And like Bijan is the example of the Bijan is phenomenal. The Falcons extending Bijan is the Falcons falconsing for all of
Yes.
eternity. We will forever be your source of fantasy statistics, and we will be in third place in the worst division in all of organized sports. That's the kind of thing that happens. Now, for Kenneth Walker, yeah, I say it because this was a team that the Chiefs that got nothing from their running backs. Did not even get the replacement level. Hey, Patrick Mahomes is our quarterback. The safeties are deep. You should be able to get yards. They couldn't even get that from Pacheco and these other guys last year. And Walker is a guy who makes those things happen. So I get that in isolation. That's your number two. But what was your number four?
Yeah, the number 4 was the Rams adding
Trent McDuffie.
Trent McDuffie
From
from
whom?
the Chiefs.
From whom?
From the Chiefs,
Right.
yes.
Now, when you gain a running back but lose a Pro Bowl cornerback, that's not forward. Pro Bowl cornerbacks are very hard to get.
Yeah.
Right, that's
But they drafted a corner early, and this felt like the McDuffie move felt as much about resetting the financial clock
oh yeah,
at that position and resetting the time clock at that position and loading up on the draft capital, which we saw during the draft. They just loaded up on help for Steve Spagnuolo and for Chris Jones. Like they seemed like they offloaded McDuffie to add other young defensive pieces at positions of need. And I go back to the Kenneth Walker thing. I don't think it was for a lack of trying that they couldn't run the ball. They tried last year. They lost, what, 5 one-score games last season, where if you can salt out the win late, move the chains in the fourth quarter, they were missing that presence. I think Walker is the guy that could be the difference maker in those situations. Now, it might blow up in their face. They might not be in one-score situations because there's so many moving parts and young players on defense
right.
that it doesn't come together quickly enough. I just see this vision of that offense becoming the best of the high-flying passing game and a ground and pound attack, married together.
You would hope so. And there's forces outside of our control. For example, Rashi Rice is on the road somewhere right now doing something really stupid, and let's all hope everyone winds up okay. And yeah, Walker, again, like sometimes those of us on the analytics side can be working from an old script too. Because it can be like, I can't believe you paid a running back. And then you look at the running back's contract and it's not that big. It's like the running back's contract's like a guard's contract. That's not that big, and he was the Super Bowl MVP, and you need this at this position. And you have the quarterback, and you are a recurring champion who can use these guys. I do like. I'm a big Mansour Delane fan, but and they did add these other guys on defense, Thomas and some of these others. I looked at the Chiefs secondary because they lost a bunch of guys in the secondary, and I saw
They lost Jalen Watson too. Jalen Watson goes to the Rams as well. They imported. It's now Chiefs West in that secondary.
Yeah, the Rams now have the Chiefs secondary, so I love what the Rams did in that respect. We're not going to talk about Ty Simpson, but like I love what they did in that respect. But I'm looking at this cornerback room, and I see Noel Williams, Mansour Delane, who I am high on, Kadir Kuhu, who was the nickel back for the Dolphins. And then I see as the number one, the first cornerback off the bench, Khair Elam from the Bills, the first-round bust of first-round busts from Buffalo, who went to Dallas, worst defense in the world, and they had to bench him from the worst defense of the world. And he's nickel or dime defender in Kansas City. That's going to be a problem. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, what's left of Kelsey, Rice when he's healthy, they're not going to be a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. It's a complicated win-loss package. You're right. They were resetting the financial clock, but it was a necessary move. It's a step backwards, whereas Walker is a step, maybe three-quarters of a step, maybe one step, but the other one's two steps, whatever. It's kind of running in place a little bit.
I'm excited to see how that offense takes shape and what the balance ultimately winds up being, especially from watching Andy Reid over a career of being so reticent to commit to the running game. Wow. Now he has a force multiplier, right? And he has a guy who can be the complementary force to Patrick Mahomes. I'm excited to see how that plays out. But before we get to the third move and kind of a big picture, my 30,000-foot view of the AFC West, I do want to pause and direct people to the Two Deep Zone this morning and the 32 fan base delusions. There are two that I want to touch on. The first one is right now. The first one is the Kansas City Chiefs. Uh-huh. And I believe the delusion is nobody outside of Kansas City cares. And I loved the breakdown of Andy Reid potentially following in the well-worn path of Bill Belichick to BYU. And then I can close my eyes and I can picture Big Red in the blue and white Tommy Bahama, replacing Kalani Sitake at BYU, Andy Reid's dream job, riding off into the sunset, and the parallels of everybody had such significant Belichick, Brady, Patriots fatigue that last year going into the postseason felt like everybody was rejoicing and dancing on the grave of not having to deal with Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes fatigue. So a great job drawing parallels between those two dynasties, my friend. That's why you're the best in the business.
Thank you very much. I get a little filthy with that one. And I don't 100% mean it. It is a little bit of a wisecrack. But I was also going after, how sick are you of the Kelsey brothers? Don't answer if Jason's one of your sources. But, are we a little tired of this routine?
It's a little overexposed. Yeah. And I don't mind him being courtside for the Cavs game with Taylor Swift. I don't mind that because he's a Cleveland guy and it's Taylor Swift. If I were marrying a billionaire pop star, I would want to show her off too, and I would want to be going nuts and cheering on my team in the conference finals. But it's a little bit overexposed overall at this point, especially when we saw what Travis Kelce was last season.
Yeah, and you know what? Obviously, you show up at events, people take your picture, you're famous, your love interest is famous, your brother's famous, whatever. You don't need a big podcast, too, that goes to the top of all these services. Who listens to this? It's the most blow-dried, sanitized, we're a couple of ordinary guys and we're brothers and things like that. No, it's a bunch of publicists telling you what to say. And you stopped having an original thought, even Kelsey. His last original thought, Jason, was when he went up there dressed as the Mummer in 2018. Everything since then is, I'm a chunky soup pitch man. I've got my own brand of beer. Have
you tried the beer? I take it. Is this take stemming from not enjoying the beer?
No, I'm not going to drink garage beer because I'm worried that it tastes exactly like a garage. I don't find I've drank beer in garages, but I don't find garage beer because when you're in the garage, it's got motor oil, sawdust, stuff like that. And Natty
Light and Lion's Head and Moosehead Lager. Like, those are garage beers. Those aren't beers
Right.
that you sit back on your porch and you're like, oh, I want to enjoy this. I want to enjoy a beer. I'm going to reach for a Lions or a Keystone Light.
It's reverse pretentious. It's garage beer, and you're sipping it like on a porch. You're sipping it like on a deck in Ocean City or something like that, at a place that costs $750,000. Drinking your garage beer. You're nowhere near a garage with that. Jason Kelsey has not been in a garage in 13 years, and if you handed him a Natty Light that had a little bit of sawdust and stuff like that, and said, hey, we're going to work together on this engine or something like that, he'd look at you like you were out of your mind. Then have his publicist take you away.
I'm going to have an addendum and make sure that you include this delusion into the fan base delusions, the Tanya Kelsey delusion.
Don't hit me with the I'm a real man. I'm an ordinary guy. Not really ordinary guy. Don't hit me with that when you're got a multi-million-dollar podcast and you're on like 10 different pregame shows and things like that. And I know I can look on OTC and know exactly how much you've been worth for the last 15 years. You're not an ordinary guy anymore. Springsteen can get away with it.
Yeah, because he speaks up and donates to the causes. And you see him out and about at the Freehold Diner and walking the boardwalk in Asbury Park
Right.
in the middle of November. You can see it.
And even he's like, oh, I'm going to change the lyrics of this song and re-release it. That's a little weak, Bruce. I'm going to go after the boss next time.
We'll see Saturday night. Hopefully, we can get in the building for that. But let's switch gears to another team in the AFC West. A move that I absolutely loved. It might be the only one on the list that you and I are in agreement with, and that's the Broncos trading for Jalen Waddle. Because this was a move, Mike, in my opinion, where the Broncos are going all in on Bo Nix. Because
Right.
even the revolving door of quarterback mediocrity in Miami that included Quinn Ewers last year averaged an 85 passer rating when targeting Jalen Waddle. And more impressively, with everyone throwing him passes all the way up to, Stephen Ross jumping on the field to play quarterback when they needed him to, he averaged 13.2 yards as an average depth of target. So he could still stretch the field, even with all that nonsense, even without Tyreek Hill commanding attention from safeties on the other side of the field. You bring that into a receiving core with Courtland Sutton. You have Troy Franklin and his 6 touchdowns from a year ago and the built-in chemistry with Bo Nix. That's one of the more well-rounded receiver trios in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, I liked the move, and once you move everyone down a notch from their primary job, like Sutton was a number one, not a very good number one. Oh, he's a number two. Okay. Evan Ingram had this like large role. He shouldn't have a large role now. He has a smaller role. Okay, that's a little scarier for the opponent. I like all those things. What I found funny, and the reason it went into the delusional pile, is I heard so much negativity from the Broncos and Broncos fans, and I'll still hear like, yeah, but our tight end situation stinks. It's like, okay, what do you want? You want to go get 4 tight ends like the Jaguars did? What did you want to do in the draft? I was like, we gave up too much to get Waddle. You gave up a first round pick that was like 29th overall in like the worst draft I've ever seen.
And a bad draft, yes.
The worst draft I've ever seen in my life. And this is a Broncos team that was one injury, snowstorm, and blocked field goal away from going to the Super Bowl, where they would have gotten the crap kicked out of them. But never mind that. They could have gone to the Super Bowl. Anything can happen there. So why not make that big splashy move? I like that. That was if you can't get A.J. Brown, you get Waddle. And Waddle might be less headaches. He's younger. He might be more versatile. It might be more with the program, etc. It's a phenomenal move.
Yeah, and I think that's just it. That you can kind of move him around, line him up in the slot, line him up in the perimeter. You can create some opportunities with him in the running game on end arounds and rocket screens and those sort of things. But I read your delusions. Are we really saying Bo Nix isn't that great? Because I look at, the trajectory last year seemed like it was up and to the right, to borrow a stock market term. I look at that franchise last year going into the conference championship game where they were forced to play Jarrett Stidham, who I'm not so sure made a start since either one of my kids were born, and he's thrust into playing against Mike Vrabel's defense. They had New England on the ropes for part of that game. If the snow would have hung around, maybe they could have got it done and gotten in. As you said, are you really bearish on Bo Nix going into this year?
He's fine. Well, first of all, he's hurt. You have to check on that. He's another guy where we have to check the injuries. But like he's in that middle tier of quarterbacks. You said it yourself. Jarrett Stidham went out there and they almost went to the Super Bowl because the defense was that good. You're talking about
Yeah.
one of the three best defenses in the NFL. Skill position talent was weaker, but you watch Nick's week in, week out, you often saw him making big plays in the last 2 minutes. And not making big plays in the last 2 minutes because it was a shootout, but because nobody had scored any points. And it was like he completed one pass, he got one good scramble, they kicked the field goal, that gets them the win. I think he can progress from here. But I was kind of trying to talk a little bit about how there, for Knicks, I don't think anybody actually like thinks he's terrible. I don't think anybody really thinks that, like, well, he has the throbbing, beating heart of a champion. And it's his outstanding leadership and his ability to get the job done when it needs to. Like, most people recognize, like, there's still a work in progress with Bo Nix. That's exciting because most of the time we talk gibberish about most of these quarterbacks. And it's like, hey, yeah, they can definitely win with him. Yeah, he's got room to grow. I like that he's in there. What I found funny about it was that then you bring in this piece for him, Jalen Waddle. And I think a lot of Broncos fans are like, is that all you got? That's all you got for me? Pro Bowl wide receiver? Made Tua look good? That's all you got?
Yeah, I think Waddle moves the needle, and I think it moves Knicks's development. And I think that when you look at what the Broncos have done the totality of the offseason, it really seems like that division might be the most wide open in football right now because I can make a compelling case for three of the four teams
Yeah.
winning that division. I can make a compelling case for the Broncos with the talent they have on defense, getting Waddle, the continued development of Bo Nix. You're recommitting to the running game. You're going to see more of R.J. Harvey, I assume, another year in the Sean Payton system and scheme. I can see the vision in Denver. I look at the Chargers, who we're going to touch on in a few minutes here, and they went all in, and they got both their all-pro tackles coming back. It was a mess. It was a disaster up front last year. You have Justin Herbert. You're going to get Omarion Hampton introducing himself in a running game that featured ground and pound explosiveness from Vitali last year, really broke out. It seems like the Chargers can be in that catbird seat. And then the Chiefs are the Chiefs, where you have Mahomes as he works his way back once he gets healthy. There's some new pieces on defense, Kenneth Walker. I can make a case for all three of those teams, but it just seems like the Broncos have built a team where you can look at the top of the mountaintop and say, okay, guys, take your best shot. We have an ascending quarterback. We have three really good wide receivers. We have an elite defense. Come beat us.
Amazing offensive line. One of the best corners in the NFL, one of the best all-around front sevens in the NFL. A lot of assets there. So, yeah, they're the team to beat, but you're right. You have these other two contenders that are very strong coming up there. I would say the NFC North is extremely wide open, too. But the AFC West would be up there.
In a different way, I think. Because I'm not as sold on Minnesota at all. I'm not as sold on Green Bay at all.
Right.
Neither one of us. They were pretty bearish there. I'm probably more bullish on Chicago than most people are. Right. And Detroit, I have to see the Lions take the step. I have to see them get back to what they were even 3 years ago.
And that's the trick with being wide open, because you have these teams where it's like in flux. I look at the DVOA projections for the Bears, and they're not very good. And I won't go into that right now because they're not released yet, but they're shaky. What you said about the Lions is absolutely true. The Vikings are the Vikings, which means every once in a while they go 13-4 on like BS and sunbeams and 59-yard field goals, and they got this new quarterback now, and they just added Juwan Jennings. So it's like all these things are possible. I'm very bearish on the Packers, but the Packers are good. They're okay. They're going to be in the wild card race again. So that's what makes it so that very complicated. And then there's the NFC West, which has got three outstanding teams and the Cardinals in it. And we touched on it earlier, but the Trent McDuffie move, significant move for a team that is trying to do a steel sharpened steel to jump into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think that you look at the Rams, I think they're the team to beat on that side of the bracket, just based on the talent across the roster, the balance across the roster, how well coached they are. I thought they got better at their biggest positions of weakness over the offseason. Who knows? Maybe they steal away an A.J. Brown. But, we started this segment talking about the impending A.J. Brown trade to come in about a week or so. And just looking at the NFC, where are the Eagles overall in that pantheon of the NFC? Because if you missed it at betweenthehashmarks.com, last week I put together the Eagles offseason grade and breakdown. I gave the moves a B+.
Right.
And you asked me on the outline today, where do I think the Eagles are in terms of ranking of NFC rosters? I have them about fourth in
Yeah.
in that conference right now. And just rattling through it, the Rams are the Rams. I have them at number one.
Hmm.
The Seahawks number two, because even though they lost a bunch of firepower, they had great depth last year that they're going to rely on here.
Hmm.
I have San Francisco ahead of them.
Yeah.
And the rationale is I thought by going out and getting Mike Evans, they solidified the biggest area of weakness, the most important position for a Kyle Shanahan offense, and by extension, that entire roster. They answered the bell at their biggest need.
Yeah.
The Eagles' offensive line, when you talk to people inside the NFL last year, I'm talking defensive coaches who played against the Eagles. I'm talking rival executives. They said, you ask them, what's different about this Eagles offense? Why isn't it clicking? Why didn't it work this year?
Hmm.
Almost to a man, they all pointed to the offensive line not being as dominant as it once was.
Right.
And you look at, the Lane Johnson was banged up.
Yeah.
You had some other injuries along the offensive line. What did the Eagles do to get better up front this offseason, to improve, to get back into being that number one offense in the league? And that's why I can't put them into that top two or three,
Yeah.
combined with remaking the wide receiving core and asking Jalen Hurts now to thrive in a system that in all likelihood is going to exploit and focus on a middle of the field, where he's been so reluctant to throw the ball throughout this course of his career so far.
Absolutely. And there's like an optimism pessimism thing. So you just say, well, if the three best rosters are all in one division, they're going to beat each other up. And it'll create an opportunity for the fourth best roster off on its own to get a better playoff seating, etc. I kind of have the same things. The Eagles could be in there with the Lions, depending on how you look at the Lions. And you could throw maybe a couple other teams in there. The Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers all had outstanding off seasons, in my opinion. The Seahawks re-signed a bunch of guys, so you always have to watch out for those re-signings. So did the Rams. So they didn't lose people from last year's roster. The Eagles shuffled more, but they added quite a bit. 49ers are getting guys healthy back. They bring in Evans, Kirk, a couple others. All of these are outstanding. Now the next question becomes: you look at the roster. We said the same thing about the Eagles roster last year. Probably would have put the Eagles roster ahead of the Seahawks roster last year. Is it going to be enough? It's hard to say right now. In May, we're hearing these sort of somewhat encouraging reports out of OTAs. It's like, oh yes, Jalen Hurts and Sean Mannion are speaking to each other. That's good. That's progress. So, is having that strong roster going to be enough in the NFC?
And I think that, I wanted to bring this up too, that my number five roster in the NFC right now is the Dallas Cowboys. Because I thought what they've done, you bring in Rashawn Gary, who people kind of poo-poo at. You look at the draft they had and the talent they added, bringing in Lawrence as an edge rusher, bringing in Caleb Downs on the back end. They really focused on building a defense that could complement what Dak Prescott and that offense do really, really well. And you talk about there being top heaviness in the NFC West, and there certainly is with those three teams. If they're the three best teams in the division and maybe three of the best teams in the conference kind of knocking each other off,
Right.
I don't think there's a cakewalk in the NFC East for the Eagles right now either. So how they overcome the Cowboys' steps, I think, is going to determine what their ceiling ultimately winds up being.
Yeah, it is interesting. The Cowboys used the Micah Parsons trade and got a bunch of guys. Just absolutely, if you look at the trade downs and the fact that they got Kenny Clark in the trade in the first place, and they got Leo Williams based on no, not Leo, Quentin
Williams.
Whew.
Yep.
Leo Williams plays for the Seahawks.
Yes.
They got
Used to play for the Jets too. You just had your Jets Williamses
and
confused.
the Jets have two Williams brothers.
Yeah.
It was Quinnen, not Quentin.
And Quincy.
Not Quincy's still with the Jets, I think.
Yes.
And there is no Quincy.
Yes.
That's an imaginary person I made up. So the Cowboys did make those additions there. If you look at their offensive line, it's very strong. Okay?
Yep.
I call it the Great Wall of Tylers because they're all named Tyler. But there are a bunch of very good prospects on that line as well. Not a pushover there. All the pushovers are in the NFC South. So you can just kind of compartmentalize them there. And then you've got the Cardinals. And that's about it. Everybody else is competitive.
No doubt about it. And it's going to be really fascinating to watch how that race plays out in the NFC. It's going to be a murderer's row of contenders, teams on the rise, those sort of things. And just want to dive real quick before we get out of here into another situation in the AFC West.
I apologize. Go ahead. I apologize for putting this in the outline. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you read the mailbag on Friday, the quote that should have echoed through the NFL offseason came from a rival quarterback coach about Mike McDaniel, the offensive coordinator of the Chargers. It said, quote, that's kind of their deal, unquote. When I asked him, is their offense going to be more ground and pound and what we saw from Devon Achane in Miami rather than fireworks and high flying, plays in the passing game? And he said, quote, Mike McDaniel kind of created this aura about himself because he's so weird. I know they had one good year on offense, but the division stunk. He played a fourth place schedule pretty consistently. I don't know how good the system is, but he always has been able to run the ball really well, unquote.
Right, but you put another one in there that said, "I just don't see Justin Herbert." Somebody else said that in your.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see Justin Herbert in Mike McDaniel's system, and I can kind of get that, but I can imagine McDaniel after 4 years of Tua walking into the first day of OTAs. Now Herbert is not in OTAs, so maybe we have to imagine him looking at tape, watching a 40-yard pass on a rope, and saying, "I didn't know that was possible."
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let me go grab the other playbook, the one for like normal quarterbacks, not this one for like tootly noodly quarterbacks that I've had to use for the last couple of years, and pull that one out. And if McDaniel isn't being that sort of weird Renaissance poet version of McDaniel that we see, he should be okay. I wonder how McDaniel jibes with Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, that's like a no-nonsense situation. On the one hand, I see it because Harbaugh is going to be the one who handles the vibes. Because the vibes weren't great with McDaniel.
No, I mean, when you walk up in training camp and say it's another day that I'm not dead, so it's a good day, right? I mean, how good can the vibes possibly be in the building if that's your introduction to the media? The way that I think that it could jive is if it becomes ground and pound. If it becomes we're going to run the ball 28 times a game, stop us with these two elite offensive tackles with a highly drafted Omarion Hampton. And when you do decide to creep up towards the line of scrimmage and load the box, we're going to throw over you with Justin Herbert, and we're going to take pressure off Justin Herbert because we're running the ball so well. But I don't know how well Herbert is going to react to those route concepts, the pre-snap motions, and all of those things.
That's the weird thing, and I don't want to make a big deal about OTAs because Mike Florio is making a big thing about OTAs, and I'm supposed to be this Herbert hater and everything. He's not at OTAs.
Well, you kind of are.
I'm not. I'm not. He was not at OTAs. He was at a Harry Styles concert. I believe that is some sort of country singer.
Pop star.
Pop singer.
Pop star.
And
Yeah.
Herbert was there with his wife, whose name escapes me. I call her fake Haley Stanfield because he has to keep up with Josh Allen by having his fake Haley Stanfield there. And they were there, not at OTAs. And I don't think that's a big thing, but he is trying to mesh with the offensive coordinator. But you're right. I'm not being a hater. There's a scenario in which McDaniel says, okay, 4 guys are going to go in motion before the snap from like this wishbone formation, but it's all just going to be an off-tackle run. And it's going to work because it's going to confuse people, and there's a good offensive line, and the safeties are deep because they're afraid of Herbert. And Jim Harbaugh will be like, well done. I accept this. This is what I was searching for. That could work. But there's a lot of variety of other ways that could not work out.
And as much as we want to talk about the passing game and the 40-yard, down and out on a rope pass from Justin Herbert, what exactly are Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson?
Quentin Johnston.
Quentin Johnson.
Quentin Johnston. They still don't have receivers. It's still Keenan
No.
Allen. And these guys that you gain, and Trey Harris. Like, who the hell's Trey Harris? Who's Ladd McConkey? I know he played pretty well a couple of years ago. They still don't have these. So are they going to punish the world with tight ends? That's a possibility. Is it going to be that there's going to be all these power runs and then the deep shots will be there? I could see that making sense. And I could see, but again, it is a weird fit when we try to take the personalities of these sort of odd personalities and also these odd playing styles and put them all in one place. By the way, I want to apologize to Herbert's wife or fiance. Her name is Beer. It's not Garage Beer. But I should be able to keep track of the fact that her name is Beer. She's a singer. She's a
Maybe she knows Harry Styles.
Maybe she knows Harry Styles. Maybe they were backstage afterwards. Maybe they did a duet. I've got no idea. I don't know who Harry Styles is. I know who Justin Herbert is. I know who Mike McDaniel is.
I'm so glad we're back and doing this. I'm so glad that we figured out how to get the technology up and running. We hope. We'll see what happens after we press the red button to end it. If it actually...
You've caught me in May 26th mode for the ages. I'm glad to be back, everyone. But it's like May 26th. Let's do a podcast. Yeah, you're right because we're in different places. We need to practice this. It's OTAs, man. It's OTAs.
I know.
I can't give a crap about Justin Herbert at OTAs. I honestly can't. I honestly can't. And yet I can't stop talking about it. Do you see what this does to me?
I know, and we're going to have to deal with everybody taking attendance. Apparently, Lamar Jackson is back at OTAs,
Oh,
so
and that's
good
another
for them. He's
right.
back. Like, not that it matters. Like, it's not a holdout. They're voluntary. All of this is
Right.
voluntary for another like 2 weeks, and then it becomes mandatory. And then training camp is here. This
Right.
is filler.
Right.
This is spring filler.
This is spring filler. And that's the thing. You did the Lord's work. You talked about real NFL. Let's talk about these trades again. Let's talk about these insiders. You know it because you have to do some stuff off to the side for other sites. Everything else that's being written right now on the internet is insanity, is absolute chaos about the NFL. And I'm not talking about the political stuff either. I'm talking about the wackadoodle stuff. I'll give you an example. And this is a simple one. Okay, and it's a good one. Okay, so ESPN's Mike Clay does an outstanding job. He gets a bunch of sources, block win rate and PFF's rates and other rates and some stuff maybe from Aaron Schatz, I'm not sure, and creates offensive line rankings, okay? So he puts them out. May's a good time. Here's offensive line rankings because, there's nothing else to talk about and they might generate some attention. So he puts out the offensive line rankings. I think they're very good. The Cardinals rank 15th in the offensive line, okay? So the Cardinals with Paris Johnson and now they have Isaac Seumalo, they're 15th. I saw 4 different aggregators for the Cardinals working off of the we rank 15th with headlines, and one of them was my favorite. I apologize to the person who wrote this, but like I know how it is. Expert says Cardinals offensive line is above average. 15th. It's true.
In a 32 team league.
It's true. It's true.
In a 32.
It's above the median. So it is in fact technically true as something can technically be true. And again, we all have to do this, but
We do.
Yeah.
But this is why we're here. This is why you and I are here. This is the pitch for the Two Deep Zone and for Between the Hash Marks.
Yes,
If you want quality NFL reporting, whether it's sourced, whether it is analytics deep dives, whether you're weaving in some great storytelling and jokes and gags into the coverage, subscribe to Between the Hash Marks, subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. We'll get you through May. We'll get you through June. And before you know it, we're going to be back. But you're not going to find Arizona Cardinals above average offensive line.
So Cooper Beebe, the center for the Cowboys, got married. I mentioned this earlier. And so all of the Cowboys offensive line and Prescott showed up for the wedding. And they did a picture where Beebe is snapping the ball to his bride with the other guys lined up in their formation. And Prescott lined up at run. It's adorable. And Prescott's lined up like at running back, like he's Javonte Williams next to the bride. And it's a very cute photo. I saw 4 different versions of the story on the internet, but I get the fact that it's cute and it's a cute photo, etc. I was just trying to think, where's George Pickens during all this? Did George Pickens walk into the airport and see a plane to Manhattan, Kansas, not Manhattan, but Manhattan, Kansas, and then a plane to Vegas, and be like, I gotta run to the bathroom, guys, I'll be right back. And go to Vegas, like, oh, I must have gotten on the wrong plane. Sorry, guys.
Wrong plane. Or we went to Manhattan for marketing work or whatever the case may be.
I went to Manhattan to actually have fun. You guys go get married. Do whatever it is you do. I'm George Pickens. I don't do that shit.
What's coming up on the Two Deep Zone?
Well, we have all week this week. We're going to be celebrating the 32-team fan base Delusions. A lot of gags, a lot of jokes, some observations along the way. I am going to start working on my take on the 13 personnel revolution, the 3 tight ends.
Awesome.
Okay, and it'd probably be a little more pessimistic than others, but Bill Barnwell did one a couple weeks ago that had a lot of pessimism, talking really about this strategy, etc. I want to come at it a little bit from my end. What do you got coming up?
Yeah, we wrote about that shortly before Bill Barnwell's story, speaking to a coach about why this is why the mailbag is awesome. And the mailbag is coming Friday. An answer in a Friday mailbag was a question from a reader who asked me what I think about 13 personnel and the Rams' success with it, whether it's going to lead to copycat, strategies around the league. And I got this really in-depth instructive quote from an offensive coach about why he loves running 13
Yeah.
personnel and the benefits of using it. So that's why you subscribe. That's why you read the mailbag on Fridays. Submit your questions. You never know what you're going to hear from an executive, a scout, a GM, whoever. So we'll have the mailbag on Friday, either tomorrow or Thursday. We will have the grading the Pittsburgh Steelers off season. So that should be a hoot. That should be a
Oh,
ton of
that'll
fun.
be fun. That'll be fun. It's all one big thing. Daddy's back.
That is back.
By the way, now you mentioned that you wrote 13 Personnel, Barnwell wrote it. I'm not going to write it.
Just link to I'll give you the quote. Give you a breakdown. Throw the quote
I'll
in
write out
there.
something else, and then I'll link to yours.
There you go.
It's overexposed right now. This is. I'm not saying that you writing it means it was overexposed, but if you did it and Barnwell did it, how many other people did it or are working on it right now?
No, your take is probably more astute than most. I think the people need to read it. I think that people need to go too deep on the 13 personnel. There's a market.
I'll
There's a market for it.
I'll do it. I'll do it. It'll be slanderous, but I'll do it.
He's Mike Tanier. Be sure to subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Ghost. You can check him out on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. I'm Matt Lombardo. Subscribe to BetweenTheHashmarks.com. You can check me out on Blue Sky at Matt Lombardo or on Threads at Matt Lombardo NFL. If you enjoy the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store. Leave us those 5-star reviews. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. We'll read the reviews if they're 5 stars on the air. Check us out on YouTube at Matt Lombardo 975. Hopefully this winds up there. We'll see what happens. And thanks for bearing with us as we work some bugs and some kinks out during this move.
Did you see the pictures of Jermaine Manor, the right tackle of the Giants, on the first day of OTAs?
How bad was it?
I'm not going to discuss the body types of other men being overweight too much. He's large.
Do we now know why they took an offensive tackle? Is that...
I think we might not know what CC's eventual role is going to be, but that's another one of these controversies that has. Look it up, and then you might get to Giants camp this year. You can get a little update on whether everyone's strength and conditioning is where it needs to be.
We'll get some boots on the ground reporting.
I know we were wrapping up there, but like I said, I'm a little, I'm a little.
I do. Go fix your back. Get your back fixed up. He's Mike Tanier.
I'm gonna take it back.
Matt Lombardo. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks.